South Park is back for its 26th season, and so far the social commentary is as ruthless and scathing as ever. So far, Trey Parker and Matt Stone have set their sights on two of culture's most inescapable narcissists, Kanye and Prince Harry, so let's break it down. I'd like to start with the superior of the two episodes, the season's second installment, Worldwide Privacy Tour. Ike is inconsolably glued to the computer after the death of Canada's Queen, preventing Kyle from playing games with his pals. Feeling left out of his friend group, Kyle gets a tip from Butters that he can win them back by working on his brand. So Kyle enlists the assistance of the Come Hammer image consultancy firm, where they advise him to enhance his image by promoting himself as some variation of a noble victim. Meanwhile, Prince Harry and Meghan go on an internationally broadcasted TV show to appeal for privacy, then take a tour around the world to picket for privacy, then decide to settle down in South Park, where they can continue their obnoxious in-your-face spectacle of asking for privacy. In the end, Kyle's new look fails to make him more likable, and he realizes that reducing yourself to a brand turns you into a product, a constant performer rather than a person. Harry similarly realizes that Meghan's claim to wanting a normal life was just a cynical PR stunt that fit nicely in a media-friendly victim narrative. Kyle forgives Ike for hogging the computer, and in a glorious touchgrass finale, the boys invite Kyle to play basketball outside. Prince Harry joins in with his drum kit. The end. This episode, in my opinion, was a complete home run. It's one of those magical South Park episodes in which both the A and B plots are not only hilarious, but include commentaries that complement and build off one another, culminating in a very satisfying synthesis that very poignantly diagnoses some of our culture's most nauseating pathologies. In the A plot, we witness Kyle cave to a pressure that's all too familiar to most everyone today. The pressure to make your personality more desirable by molding your identity to fit what other people find fashionable, to manicure your image to one that tickles a social media algorithm that will reward you with promotion, to turn yourself into a distraction factory that reliably provides dopamine hits to the armies of doom scrollers desperate to avoid a thought entering their heads. And in order to transform into a palatable product, you need to flatten yourself into a series of bullet points that tells a story. But importantly, a good story needs conflict. After all, in movies, books, games, and television, we're less likely to identify with a character who hasn't overcome some kind of adversity. Thus, it becomes essential to cast yourself as a victim, to turn into someone whose narrative stirs up other people's emotions so that they can feel proud of themselves for feeling empathy, to package yourself as a product that consumers enjoy because it makes them feel like a good person. In the B plot, we see this pressure not only weighing on normal people like Kyle, but even millionaire princes and Hollywood actresses feel the need to victimize themselves, because in the realm of fashionable ideology, a victim is pure, elevated, prestigious, noble, and resilient. And if I'm being charitable, this might even be particularly challenging for a prince. If being a good person through the increasingly stupid lens of social media requires you to face adversity, a prince really has to jump through hoops to convince people that a born millionaire royal is a victim. Not only does the episode hilariously nail the hypocrisy of attention whores making a spectacle asking for privacy, writing tell-all books, making Netflix documentaries, and going on press tours, but also the utter shallowness of trying to turn his life of privilege into a victim narrative. I especially like the short scene during the privacy tour when they scream their way through an impoverished part of India, which is largely like that because it was colonized by his pop-pop. And even there, they have the gall to label themselves victims. Meghan says if they go to South Park, people will think they want to live a normal life because the desire for something common and decent is just a cynical branding strategy to fuel their unhinged media-fueled narcissism. It's perhaps hinted that Harry actually wants a normal life, but the vacant Instagram-obsessed Meghan just wants to sell the narrative of his desire for a normal life. At the end of the episode, Kyle forgives Ike's prolonged sadness because things just get to him. That's just who Ike is. Kyle realizes he would prefer his brother be annoying and true to himself rather than try to appease him by acting like someone else. Because people aren't just trendy identity markers. They're much messier, and we shouldn't feel obligated to smooth out our wrinkles to line up with other people's wants. It would all be a lot better if we got off the internet and just went outside.
So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off!
I also just want to briefly comment on how funny this episode was. The decision to make the Royals Canadian was a stroke of brilliance because it allowed for the ridiculous voices and the aggressively stupid fart and queef jokes that get me every time. Also, Harry helicoptering his dick in Kyle's window while asking for privacy has got to be one of the funniest things that South Park has done in recent years. The episode really feels like classic South Park again. Not only are we focused on the boys in school, but I feel like Matt and Trey seem much more emboldened to criticize some of the obvious excesses of the culture war than they were in previous seasons. Anyway, moving on to the Kanye episode. In the season premiere, Cupid Yee, Stan's jealousy of Kyle and Token's newfound TikTok fame inspires Cartman to sow division in their partnership by following the advice of his now Yeezified alter ego and educate Token on anti-Semitic conspiracies, the most prominent of which is that Kyle runs Hollywood. Other kids start pitching Kyle their movie ideas, and Randy even requests an audience with him so he can share his feedback that Hollywood wokeness isn't working. Despite their incessant proselytizing, Cartman and Cupid Yee find no success in radicalizing Token, so Cupid Yee steps it up a notch and goes on television, where he says that German Voldemort wasn't such a bad guy. And even for Cartman, that's crazy talk. Eventually, Cupid Yee reveals his true plan to go DEFCON 1 and spread Nazism, which again is too far for Cartman. It's up to Cartman to force-feed Cupid Yee his meds, after which he reverts back to Cupid Me. At the obligatory soapbox moment, Kyle says that we can't control what people say, but we can be careful with what we believe. If someone says something outlandish, it's our duty to look into it, and oftentimes we can very plainly and very easily find out that it's untrue. What I found most insightful about this episode is how it emphasizes the responsibility of interpretation. This is something I'm always preaching on this channel and on my Twitch stream, that we not only need to be responsible in how we communicate, but also responsible in how we interpret. And what this episode points out quite cleverly, I think, is putting all the emphasis on policing what people say will ultimately be inadequate for a couple reasons. The first of which is that people can muster up even the most benevolent of motivations for horrible things. Case in point, Cartman and Cupid Yee invoke their duty as good Christians to justify spreading hateful conspiracies. As Cartman says in the episode, Cupid Yee is using Christianity to justify being a racist piece of crap. Not only that, but Cartman's whole reason for allying with Cupid Yee is because he wants to help Stan. If he doesn't get Kyle away from Token Cartman reasons, then Stan will never be happy again. So if we uncritically accept certain positions because they're expressed in the framework of a religion primarily about helping people or for concern for a friend, we can let hatred and other ill intentions slip by us. The second is that severe punishment for speech runs the risk of lending further credence to the opinions being silenced, like when PC Principal threatens giving Cartman 2 months detention if he says that Kyle runs Hollywood again. They might think, why would they be so keen on silencing it if it weren't true? And so only policing communication and not also focusing on interpretation as a site of improvement is ultimately impotent in combating hate. We have to be aware of the reasons why we believe certain things. We're always going to be biased toward the positions of the glamorous artists that we admire, and we're always going to be biased towards believing things that justify our emotions. But as Kyle suggests, we can't let our guard down. If we're really oriented towards truth, we have to do our due diligence. We have to encourage people to be more discerning about what they choose to accept, especially when it's something that we want to believe or said by someone we want to believe. Overall, I thought the episode was okay. While I appreciated the message, I didn't find it terribly funny, and well, that's important for an episode of South Park. It also seemed a bit out of character for Cartman to draw the line at saying that he who must not be named wasn't such a bad guy. I mean, this is the character, after all, who dressed up like him and then tried to recreate his most heinous deed in Season 8. Also, if praising German Voldemort is too crazy for Eric, what does that make the rest of the conspiracies he was spewing? Not crazy? Less crazy? That Kanye should probably stay on his meds was dramatized pretty humorously, but it's a take we've all heard 1,000 times, and I usually expect something a bit more original from South Park. The end credits, though, that imply Matt Stone, the Jewish one of the duo, runs the show when it's actually Trey, was pretty funny. Also, I'm not quite sure how to interpret Stan. As is the case with South Park, Trey is always weaving in and out of allegorical meaning, so it's hard to tell sometimes when something is only relevant to the text of the narrative and when it's not also relevant to the subtext. Is Stan the conservative Christian base that Kanye is trying to pander to with his turn to Christ? Does Stan represent the jealous resentment of other identity groups? It's really hard to say. On a personal note, I know the episode came out close to Valentine's Day and that there's a convenient overlap with Cartman's mental health weirdness regarding Cupid Me and Kanye's diagnosed bipolar disorder, but I really miss the gay fish version of Kanye. Seeing him prance around in that tacky Aquaman costume is always so funny, so I thought this was a real missed opportunity. Overall, the season so far has been a bit of a mixed bag with some really high highs and some kind of disappointing mez, but it does seem like they're back to the golden age South Park formula, and that's worth celebrating. Be sure to check me out on Twitch if you want to chat about more South Park, and subscribe to the channel for more breakdowns of this season. There's also a link below if you want to support the channel. Appreciate you all, and as always, thanks for watching. Peace.